Hi everyone, this is Walt, and you're about to listen to the Business and People podcast episode with Anthony Richardson. Now, one of the troubles we had with this episode was that the audio and the video kept dropping in and out. I've done my best to edit all of the major cutouts with you, but stick with the podcast, stick with the video, because what Anthony drops in terms of knowledge, he started from nothing, created a business in his garage, has gone on to create a multi-million dollar company, pivoted to create another multi-million dollar company. His knowledge is insane. So I know the audio sucks and there's a few dropouts, but stick with it because it's really worth it. And as always, thanks so much for listening and for your loyalty to the program. Make sure you share it around so other people and other entrepreneurs can get that knowledge and help them on their journey as well. This is Anthony. This is the Business and People podcast. Thank you so much for being with us. Hey guys, this is Walt Bayliss with the Business and People podcast. Today, I've got a personal hero on the show with me. This is a gentleman that I read about in the news and went, wow, what a story. Somebody that's gone from creating a business in their garage through sheer necessity. He spent 11 years in the Navy, then went into the Special Forces and now runs a multi-million dollar company. Now, that wasn't enough. He supplies the Pentagon. He supplies some of the biggest armed forces in the world. He's gone from having 20 bucks in the bank to making millions of dollars in a year. And his story is nothing short of an inspiration. It's an absolute pleasure for me to introduce to you Anthony Richardson of Q83 and OzFit Torsion Bars. Anthony, thanks so much for joining us on the show.
Hey, thanks for having me. It's an absolute pleasure, and thanks for the kind words. It's
really easy to give those kind words. When I look at your story, starting from a military background and then moving through into the business field, how did that all come together for you?
Honestly, the first business I started was when I was 16. So I feel that my grandfather was in the military, so I felt that I was obligated in a way to go to the military, which certainly I loved, honestly, as a kind of 16, 17-year-old learning about, wait, there's a job where I can shoot guns and blow stuff up and get paid? Absolutely. That'd be awesome. So I loved my time there. But I felt that the role that I was doing there was almost like spending a lot of time in a simulator and not getting real-time operational experience. So I had kind of idle hands in a way, and I would just look at other things I would do to create businesses, and they just took off, which was great.
That's awesome. So your first business was on a push bike, mending lawnmowers, going door to door, fixing people's mowers. Is that right?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, I'd have my push bike because I didn't have my license at the time. I was too young. So I just grabbed some tools, and with lawnmowers, they're pretty easy machines. Generally, there's only a handful of things that break on them. So I would just take those spare parts with me, and then I would kind of fix them there on the spot. It came about because I was actually working at a service station, and it was a pretty old-fashioned service station where the attendant would come out and actually fuel up the car, which you never see anymore. And then I just kept seeing that these people were rocking up with their nice Mercedes and pulling this dirty lawnmower out of the back of the car and generally scratching it on the way. Why don't I just go to their house and save them the trouble and get paid at the same time?
See a need, feel a need. I love it. And then from there into the military. So what was if you could look at an amazing service career which you had there in the military and take a few things away from it, what would you say you walked away from the military with as core skills?
I would say the ability to be adaptable is key, and be nimble. Not everything goes to plan, but I think it's when you're dealing with any kind of hardship or a barrier that wasn't expected, it's the ability to just accept it and just move on. It's not going to change, and there's no point losing time on something that you can't change or you can't affect. So I think that adaptability was absolutely key. But also understanding how to manage people. We do a lot of management training. At a time I was managing around 20, 25 guys. And it was key to understand that, yes, we do have a ranking structure that obviously must be adhered to, chain of command that always works. But if you've got a guy who's just come through, there was an instance where we needed to actually fix a boat. And generally the boat needed to be repaired. We have a corporal who would take charge, or a leading seaman at that rank that would take charge, middle management kind of structure. And he would take charge of the lower ranks to fix the boat. But in this instance, one of the lower ranks was a shipwright for 40 years. So obviously he's going to take charge in that instance. Yeah. So it's looking at people and who they are, not what's on their shoulders, and that kind of thing. And that's where we learned that in this instance, the guy who was fresh out of recruit school, you would see him as a bit of a greenhorn. However, he was a shipwright for 40 years. So he knew his stuff when it came to fixing boats.
Super cool.
He took the solution.
So moving then from there into the business world, and I want to dig into your business journey a little bit, but staying on topic where we're talking about, recognizing people's skills and who they are. You've had an amazing success with OzFit Torsion Bars, which I'll dig into. You've now created Q83, which is a design for influencers, etc., to really reach the right people and get the right information. You've grown that business to 11 people in 12 months, which is staggering. So staying on topic, how have you found those skills that you learned with the military, being able to work with people, be adaptable, change what you need to do? How have you moved that into your business growth?
It's understanding the market. I think understanding what the market needs and then adapting a solution for the problem that you're trying to fix. I think that's the biggest key. I'll never start a business without their understanding that needs a solution. I think a lot of people may have an idea around a business, but then they try and find the market for it. And it's just kind of set up for failure from the beginning. So we understood that there was the market, we understood there was a problem, and then fixed the solution for it. But in the early days, the idea of what the problem isn't what the actual problem is when you learn it 12 months down the track. It's very different. So much market research needs to be done. And from an outsider looking in, generally, when the idea comes to mind, the problem is very different once you get your hands dirty and understand the inner workings and kind of spend time with these guys. So that's what I did. So in the early days, we understood the problem from an outsider's point of view. But I wasn't marketing. I'm not obviously not from marketing industry. Did a little bit of influencer marketing with OzFit Torsion Bars, which was great. And that's where the problem existed. We had influencers approaching us for product for exposure, and we understood it worked, and we approached it in a way that was kind of like a bit of FOMO. Like, we knew that we wanted to get into it, but we didn't want to put too much money into it because we didn't know if it was going to work or not. And when we would advertise with like Men's Health or a digital platform or publisher, we would see a clear value offering from them, and that would be in the form of a media kit.
Right.
That would tell us who their readership was, what their reach was, demographics, and a clear rate card. But I feel that was missing from the influencer space.
It was almost like a wild west there. Like, it's, hey, you've got a couple of thousand people that follow you on Instagram, and suddenly, you're reaching out to some of the biggest companies in the world. So you've taken that and you've professionalized it in that Q83 space.
Definitely, yeah. And we really wanted that professionalizing angle to come from the social publishers. And that's what we refer to them as. Because ultimately, they are a mini publishing house.
Yeah.
They have millions of reach. Some have higher reach than what their followers are. We've got a couple of comedians that are on the platform, and they use our media kits to share their value. And one specifically has 8,000 followers, and he's reaching 87,000 followers or 87,000 unique accounts, which is huge. So if you look at the expected outcome you're going to have there, it's going to be well above your expectations, and you're more likely your KPIs.
Unreal. So I'll jump into Q83 in a little bit further detail in just a minute. But coming back to I guess I want to put this in inverted commas. What made you famous was the OzFit Torsion Bars. Now, this as a business idea started in your garage. So you've done the special ops training. You've been punished on the military field in a workout space with these damned heavy bars, and you went, wow, I could really get that into the marketplace. How did you go from that's a great idea to then getting into the Pentagon and actually getting your equipment into the largest naval base in the world? How did that journey happen?
I was a combat systems operator, mine warfare in the Navy. So that's not a special forces role, but I was training for a special forces role. I never went into the special forces. Just to be clear, just so I'm not kind of claiming that never happened. I went into the training for it, which was really good. And that's where I learned of the torsion bars and these heavy pieces of steel that could just bring tears to your eyes really quickly. And in that journey, I decided, you know what, I'm 25 at the time. This isn't for me. I might come back in a little while. And I decided to take a gap year, and I created the torsion bars, took them back to the Navy. And the issues that we had on the training on the quarter deck of the ship was that the equipment would rust really quickly. As the ship is rolling around, the equipment's rolling with it, and you've kind of got to dodge it before it goes over the side. So I designed it so it doesn't rust and doesn't roll. Took a couple of samples back to the Navy, and they said, these are awesome. Let's do a trial. So we did. We put 30 torsion bars onto a frigate that went over to the Middle East for 6 months, and they loved it. They came back. We fit out the fleet now in Australia, and fit out all the bases, which is great. And then I have a friend in the US, and I said, look, I want to do a bit of a tour in the US. I want to kind of start to enter that market and put my toe in the water. And he's like, well, I've got a contact at the Pentagon if you want to work out there. And I'm like, it'd be amazing. It'd be like a kid in a candy store pretty much.
Yeah, definitely.
And it was great. So we went there, did a workout. The guys loved it. And then we went down to Norfolk Navy Base, which is obviously down in Virginia. And that was perfect. We went down there and had a look, did a workout as well. They picked up some gear as well. And it was great. And only recently, we've actually just released a new piece of equipment, which is actually the first. It's the first iteration of the torsion bar we've ever released, which is pretty exciting. And it's an M4 weapon simulator. So it's for fitness. Obviously, if you're running as a soldier, as a sailor even, you need to mimic carrying a 4-kilo weapon for a long time. So we created these weapon sims, and we've actually just released those with the Marines, which is really exciting. Yeah.
I love it, mate. And following your journey, as I said, I was absolutely inspired as an entrepreneur myself by your journey and what it took to go from those humble beginnings. One of the things I loved on your Instagram was that first post where you were flying business class. So you've gone from, barely having $20 in your pocket to literally making millions. Can you, Anthony, give me a brag moment? Can you remember the day or, the scenario when you opened the email or whether it came in hard mail or however it came to you, when you had that order that just blew the roof off with OzFit Torsion Bars?
Yeah, absolutely. So it was, I'd say it was probably with the Aussie military, honestly, because when we did that trial, and it was 6 months. There's a lot of hard work going into that trial. So those prototypes I took to them, they were kind of unfinished. There was 3 of them. Took me about a month to make. And the premises of the trial was we need 30 torsion bars in 10 days. So I'm like, shit, how am I going to do that?
Took you 3 months to make 3. Okay, cool.
Off I got it all done. Didn't have a lot of sleep. yeah. So I got it all done, which was, yeah, exactly. And so I think that was definitely when the trial was a success, and they were in the tender, they were in the contracting. And they're like, all right, cool, let's start looking at how many ships there are, what the quantities are per ship, and just looking at the numbers that are associated in the cost of that. And they're still saving money at the end of the day, it was so win-win. And that's how I like to work. But when we received that, that was very much like a bit of an eye-opener, going from the garage, setting up mass production, all that kind of stuff. But yeah,
What's the you've frozen there, mate? So I'm going to jump in with a question, and I hope I'm not cutting you off. And we've got a bit of a dodgy internet connection here, so hopefully we can pick that back up. If you can still hear me, Anthony, what's the volume now? You got you back, cool. So what's the volume now? You went from doing it took you 3 months to make your first 3. What kind of volume are you doing now monthly, either in kilograms of steel or in sheer numbers of bars that you're selling? Like, how many are you doing in a month now?
Honestly, I'd have to have a look. We now have our team with OzFit Torsion Bars. So I'm still managing director, but there's a CEO and its own sales team and stuff, which is amazing. But my head is all in Q83 now, so I'd honestly have to look. But we've just set up our first international sales guy. Before we were doing everything internally. So he's great. So he's taking charge.
Good. So I heard you say you've got your guy now. He's looking at like your managing or your director of OzFit Torsion Bars, taking control of the whole business, and it's freed your time up.
Yeah, absolutely. So since August last year, I've been heading to Q83 and setting up that business and really kind of establishing it.
Awesome.
So in OzFit, I still love it because that's like my baby in a way. Like just seeing it grow, I love to still get in there. But in terms of numbers and stuff, honestly, honestly. I'm so far out of the game.
No, that's cool. So
I just get the reports every now and then.
let's transition into where your head's at with Q83 then. So let me finish off with OzFit Torsion Bars and just say one of the things I loved about the concept, and this is just from a personal point of view, is I saw a picture where you had all of these torsion bars ranked from, I think it was 2 kilos up to 25 kilos in the back of a hatchback. You know, a back of a little wagon where a personal trainer can have a whole range of bars and can go and do a class and fit all of their equipment in such a small space. I loved it. So I think there's a massive market still there for you. So that's amazing. I'm super happy for you. And I think that the growth through the States and through the UK and through Europe is going to see you in many more business class flights. That's awesome. Yeah. Let's transition into Q83 because from our listeners, most of our people, Anthony, they're entrepreneurs. Maybe they're a year or two in, or maybe they're just getting started. They've got that kind of idea and they want to transition from working for someone else into their new environment, or, you know, they're driven, they're salespeople, they're achievement focused. So with Q83, what's fascinating for me is that you've been able to take this concept, again, you've seen an idea and you've grown that into, you know, an 11-person company in 12 months. What were the lessons that you learned with your first business that were able to then help you start Q83 with such a massive push forward?
The first would be absolutely understanding the problem in the market. Yeah. There are two things I really want to get a grip on before I put a dollar into anything. I think that's really important. So I actually sat down and thought about Q83 6 months before I started looking into it again. Yeah. Mainly because I saw the problem. It was affecting me and the way that OzFit used influencers. And then I went to my finance director and I'm like, hey, I'm thinking about doing this. And he's like, how about no? Because we've got this other business that's going really well and taking up a lot of time. And I'm like, good point. So we thought about it a little bit more. And I was actually in LA with OzFit and I was sitting down at a cafe and it just kept coming back to me. And I'm like, nah, you got to do it. So I did a bit of a feasibility document on it. And pushed it through to him and said, look, this is what I want to do. I think we have to do it and the time is now. If we wait, we're going to regret it. And he's like, all right, let's do it. So that was definitely the start, but understanding the not jumping into it. Yeah. I think before, because I was a PT and I could actually see where the torsion bars would fit into my day-to-day life, it was very easy to jump into that wholeheartedly. Yeah. But going into a market or going into an industry that I had no idea about, I could just see it on the buy side and how that was affecting me and my trust in I guess, investing into the channel. So I could see it, but I didn't fully understand it. So I really need to take the time to fully understand what I was getting into. That was absolutely.
That was the answer that you gave before, we understanding that market. But one of the things that you said was really interesting for me was that the problem you thought the market had is very different than the problem you find the market has now 12 months in. So like, I guess in the business terms, they're calling this a pivot where we've started with one particular direction and we've ended up going based on market feedback into a completely different direction. Was that a sudden change for you? Were you sitting around and going, hey, hang on a second, we need to do this? Or was it a gradual movement across to a different direction?
It was a gradual movement. We could see that what Q83 does essentially allows the influencer or the social pilot to share that value. But because it is an opt-in platform, we don't scrape any data. We report directly from Instagram, and I'm pretty sure we're the only company in the world that actually does that for media kits. Pretty much guarantee that actually. Only 3 to 5 companies in the world have access to API or Instagram's API, and none of them use it for this. So none of them use it to actually provide the influencer with the details they need to be able to share them, which is really important. But I think it was it was quite interesting to see, honestly. But I think once we had that opt-in ability, we needed to drive influencers to the platform, and we thought that was going to be quite easy in the early days. But what we realized really quickly was that it's the brands. The brands fund the channel, and the brands are the ones that need to know the information. And a lot of the issues that we had in the early days was education. Right. A lot of people understood that, wait, I'm already getting this data. I'm like, yes, but it's not accurate. Yeah. If you compare it to the back of that talent's insights on their app, they're going to be way off. And sometimes we saw up to 80% off on audience.
And hence the erosion of trust from the brands.
Absolutely. And generally, this was on other platforms that these brands are paying a premium for to have access to this data that is incorrect.
Yeah.
So there was a huge amount of education that was needed, and to kind of bypass that and go straight to the talent. Yes, yeah, going straight to the talent or straight to the influencer was really key. We realized that what they were doing to create that value transparency was creating media kits half of the time.
Yep.
The other time they were sending screenshots. And the issue was as soon as that screenshot was taken and sent, it was old.
Yeah, it's inaccurate immediately.
Absolutely. Yeah, it would expire straight away. And then if they did create a media kit and save it as a PDF, it would be old straight away as well. So they needed something that was dynamic, it was interactive, it would update all the time. And ultimately they could be creative in creating it as well.
Fantastic.
So it wasn't, that's what we created, and that's working really well.
That's brilliant. And so that gives you the IP of Q83. That gives you the business model that is Q83. How did you build your team? Did you poach from OzFit Torsion Bars, your first couple of people, or did you start with a fresh team?
No, it's actually a fresh team. It was actually quite interesting. So in the early days, I want to understand, okay, if we're going to do this, we want to have first party data or source data directly from Instagram. It's the only way we're going to do it. We're not going to scrape accounts, do machine learning or AI and all that stuff. It's not really there yet. Maybe in 10 years we might get there, but I think we're well off anything that's going to be 100% accurate in that way. So I reached out actually a guy that I used to train 5 years ago at that time, so 6 years ago now, and said, hey, I'm thinking about doing this with Q83. What do you think about it? And also, do you want a job? And
nice.
And he came back and he's like, tell me a little bit more, and we had a chat about it. And he's now the head of development and has been there for a year, and he's great. He's amazing.
Fantastic.
I honestly wouldn't be able to do anything with Q83 without him. He's great.
Have all your hires been headhunts, Anthony? Have you always handpicked that person and sort of, hey, you're the guy I need to bring on board?
No, we did a little bit of headhunting, and we still are at the moment. So the team's always growing. We're at 12 now, and we're soon to be 14, which is
fantastic.
Great. But we'd look on platforms. We'd go to networking events at universities for junior developers and see who stood out, have a chat to them. I don't hire people on their qualifications, honestly. I hire them on their ability to do the job, their work ethic, their passion. I think that they're the things that you can't train. You can send somebody on a course and get a qualification. That's easy. But like Jeremy, head of dev, he has no formal qualifications in development. He's self-taught, and he's our marketing manager was one of our BDMs. The marketing manager we did hire didn't work out. We just was useless. So we got in. He's like, well, I can fit the role. And I'm like, sure, why not? Jump in. And honestly, when it comes to design and marketing strategy, he's the best I've ever seen. He's great, but he has no formal qualifications in marketing, which is interesting. So so we just look to who can do the job and who has that passion and the drive, and give them a shot.
So cool. So did you start as a typical founder doing everything yourself, and then those people have taken those roles off your shoulders, and you find yourself in a higher level management role now? Is that kind of where you find your day?
Yeah. So I bootstrapped OzFit Torsion Bars.
Yeah.
And then when it came to Q83, we realized the time it would take to get the product where it needed to be, we couldn't bootstrap it. Definitely not. Because in tech, we need to build it, we need to test it, and then we need to market it. And it's a lot of money. So we actually raised 1.4 Aussie to do it. And it was good. So we hired everybody in the early days, but we had a small team of only myself, shared finance director with OzFit, shared marketing at the time, and then just one salesperson. That was it. And Jeremy, the head of dev. And then we went into just growing out the team, understanding the direction we're going to go and where we really needed human interaction. Ultimately, we're a SaaS platform. So we just wanted people to land on the website, understand the value it adds and what we do, and the whole process to be very intuitive. We love the people that use our platform, but we don't want to necessarily meet them to onboard them.
Yeah, sure.
The model work. So so that was generally the way we took it. But it's kind of, I couldn't have done it all by myself in the early days like I did with OzFit.
Yeah, definitely. I can see the different needs, and of course having that starting point from OzFit and that success to be able to raise that capital would have been a great help to say, look, here's what I've done, here's what I want to do, and flow that model forward. So what's an average day look like for you now, Anthony? Like what's a day in the life of a managing director of two companies and an incredible Australian.
Honestly, a lot of meetings, loads of meetings.
Yeah, right.
Which is good, but I started to take out no meetings on Tuesdays and Thursdays, which has been pretty good. And I think that's definitely really important, because I found that I was just doing meeting after meeting after meeting, and they were really good, but the follow-ups was just no time to do the emails and the little things. But I think it's really important to kind of be there in the office with the team, and having fun at the same time. So generally, like I wake up whenever I need to. I don't have a set routine in that. If I work back late because I'm really motivated, my head's in the right space, I'm just smashing out good quality work, then I'll stay there. And my fiance is really supportive. I think that's really important. If it's 7 o'clock at night and I'm like, she asks me when I'm going to be home, I'm like, look, honestly, not anytime soon. I'll see you tomorrow. She's like, no problem, easy. She gets it. But at the same time, if it's a Monday and she has the day off, I'll take the day off and spend it with her. And that's the way I treat. We're very linear in our I guess chain of command at work. It's very much we work to task orientated outcomes. So if it's Monday and it's 40 degrees, go to the beach. I don't care. As long as it comes down to the end of the task or end of the deadline, all the tasks are complete, our sprint is complete, everything's tested and working, everyone's happy. It works really well. So I think that in terms of my routine and my team's routine, I think they're actually pretty much the same. It just changes depending on what the day demands.
Yeah, cool. I love that. And I think that's a lot of the reason that entrepreneurs start down that path is for the freedom. And so many people that I speak to certainly end up trading that away in those first couple of years. And it's fantastic to hear that you have that sprint. And I know you're using that in a dev term because I run a software company as well. So I know you're using that in a dev term. But, from a business perspective, if we take it as a sprint, like let's all just get this done, bang, 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 hit some targets. And then let's have a recovery. Let's take a day off. Let's go to the beach. Like that ability to sprint and pull back and sprint and pull back gives a lifestyle and a bit of a balance that I think a lot of people are missing.
Definitely. And I think that that works in every aspect of life, really, doesn't it? Like even when you look at like fitness, people are happy. They know they'll commit to something and they're happy to go 100% at it. As long as they've got that kind of end date, they're like, okay, I get to relax on this day. I'll be happy to then. And that's what they work towards. So they're happy to go kind of really hard at something and then know it's going to end, which I think is really important. But I think that drives really positive outcomes. I think definitely. If you give that structure.
We had a guest on the podcast, an Olympic middle distance runner, Nick Simmons, and he said something interesting about the sprint and achieving, like getting across the line. And he was saying at the end of a marathon, so you've run, 42 kilometers, and you're looking at that and going, I have 10 more meters, and after that 10 meters, I'm dead. Like you're literally exhausted at that point. What Nick said was, from a physiological point of view, what was really fascinating was even at that absolute point of exhaustion, science has shown us that we have only used 16% of our total capacity.
Yeah, wow. Yep.
So like the concept, and I guess I'm putting that back to you, the concept of having that incredible sprint, let's put everything in and just do it until it's done. And we as human beings, we never realize how much we can actually do. If we just have that deadline and keep pushing it forward.
It's so true. And it's one of those things where you think, like whenever you go for a run, and I think obviously a lot of your listeners are probably active and they go for a run and you get that spot where, okay, I'm exhausted. I'm going to stop at this tree or at this traffic light, or I'm going to stop here, or I can't go any further. And then you kind of go back to your mind and say, well, why not? How about I go to the next one? And you look down, your legs are still moving. Your mind is just in this battle of saying, no, give up.
No, that's right.
I think it's crazy. And, but your legs don't stop.
I've often said to people, you're stronger than you can ever believe. Like if you have that, I'm going to stop at that tree. But if that was deleted, if that was eliminated and I'm going to stop at the end, then you will get there. And I say to people, you're stronger than you can possibly believe. And at the same time, you're weaker than you can possibly imagine. In other words, you need a hand, you need help, you need people around you, you need, mentors and materials to be able to I guess pad you from everything that's going to be bouncing you around left and right. Do you have a business mentor, Anthony? Do you have like I guess traditional mentorship role, or do you follow certain people for your own guidance?
Honestly, my finance director, Tony, he's got a wealth of experience in everything. So Tony's my uncle as well. So he's unbelievable. He's spent he's I guess an accountant by trade, but he was raising funds for mines. He's done a wealth of experience in multiple different industries, and anything where I'm unsure, I lean on him, and he gives some great advice. We're very much kind of yin and yang, so we work well together, and it's a really good connection, which is great. So I'm generally very optimistic around things, and he's very realistic, which is great. So we kind of equal each other out.
The accelerator and the brake.
Absolutely. Yeah, it works really well.
Yeah, really cool.
Really good discussions, not arguments, which is great. I don't think we've ever had an argument. And we've been working together for 8 years now, which is really good.
So cool. So the boy from Wagga who started with a mower repair business on a push bike, now supplying the Pentagon, the biggest military bases in the world, the UK military, Aussie military and Kiwis, building an incredible company with Q83 and working with publishers, working with people who have that social influence. Mate, this has been an incredible journey. And again, from my perspective, the inspiration that you've shown from the grit needed to get the job done and to move that forward has been absolutely awesome. What's next for you? What are the goals? What are the milestones that you've got in the horizon that you and the team are heading for?
Honestly, it's to get Q83 to profitability. A lot of people will say, and I've listened to a few tech companies where, a lot of podcasts where the people on there say it's a tech company and we're not designed to be profitable. And I'm like, wait, what? What are you
Doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, exactly. It's pretty crazy. So no, our goal is profitability and dividends for our investors. That's it. As well as solving problems that's win-win for every stakeholder in the industry. So that's my drive at the moment.
Nice.
And one thing I love is doing that as soon as possible and always under promising and over delivering. I think that's really important. So that's my head at the moment. In terms of other businesses, there's a couple in the background that are just circling like sharks, and I've got to kind of keep my head in this game and get this profitability, get this going. But in terms of Q83, we're solely Instagram at the moment. But over the next 3 months, we actually bring on YouTube, Facebook, and Twitter as well. So we've got a lot of dev happening, and it'll all be Q83 at the moment for the. Yeah.
Fantastic. And I love what you're saying about, having a couple of businesses floating around there in the background. Like, before we clicked on record, I was talking about Q83 with you and you said that was just my ADHD kicking in. I just needed something else to take my focus. Have you got enough challenges right now? Have you got enough on your plate that you can honestly look at those extra things and say, not now? Are you so focused in on what you've got already?
Absolutely. Yeah, definitely. We've got some really exciting things for Q83. Like, for instance, I leave for the UK in 2 days to go set up our UK office. Which is amazing and unheard of for a company that's a year old. So it's really exciting. And then we push into New York, push into the States in January. So it's really exciting stuff. I'm really excited about it. I think this is the first time where I've actually been, no, I'm not going to touch those other companies yet. Those other businesses. I'm just going to wait until I get this one going.
Fantastic.
And to a space where actually I want it.
Nice.
Which is really
unreal, mate. Anthony, again, I'm so grateful for your time and so respectful I'm sorry for our connection issues here, but we'll make sure that we get those edited out as we're moving forward. Anthony, I just want to say congratulations. More than anything else.
I'm pretty sure.
There it is. I want to say congratulations. And also, mate, I want to say thank you, because what you've shown to an entrepreneur is that you can get started from your garage. You can build to an international brand. You can start with an idea that solves a problem. And by listening to your customers, you can pivot to a multi-million-dollar multinational business in a short period of time. So I want to say, absolutely, as an entrepreneur, thank you for setting that path and making it clear that those dreams and goals can come to fruition for anybody that's following through. So, mate, again, thank you so much for your time. I can't wait to see where Q83 is going. I can't wait to see those additional platforms coming on stream. I think you're providing an amazing service for the brands and for the publishers as well. And, mate, again, thank you for the time and for a chance to pick your brain a little bit on what it takes.
Hey, my pleasure. It's been great and very, very humbling. Thank you.
Awesome, mate. Thanks again. We'll look forward to seeing the journey forward.